Welcome back, everyone, to Bookish Dives.
Great to be diving in again.
Yeah, and if this is your first time joining us, well, we've taken deep dives into some pretty compelling books before. But today we're really digging into one that seems to really hit home for a lot of people. It's Brianna Wiest's The Mountain Is You, Transforming Self-Sabotage into Self-Mastery.
Yeah, this book has definitely struck a chord, and you can see why, right? The core idea is just so powerful.
Bilges?
Well, the biggest hurdles we face, the things that stop us, they aren't always external. Often, they're the roadblocks we build inside ourselves, these self-defeating patterns.
Exactly. It's all about figuring out what those inner challenges are and then, learning how to navigate them so we can actually live the life we want.
And Wiest has some incredibly sharp insights. So today we're planning to unpack the key concepts, really give you a good handle on what the book offers.
Okay, let's get into it, Len. The title itself, The Mountain Is You. That's the starting point.
Right. It's a really central metaphor. The mountain, it's not like a bad job or a difficult relationship out there. It symbolizes those internal blocks, those habits of self-sabotage that are standing right between you and where you want to be.
And that perspective shift is huge, isn't it? We instinctively look outside, blame circumstances or other people. But Wiest really argues that the real challenge, the real work, is mastering ourselves, understanding why we build these mountains.
Yeah.
And her take on self-sabotage is pretty interesting, too. Not what you might expect.
Definitely. She sort of reframes it. Instead of seeing it as, simple self-hatred or just a lack of willpower.
Right.
She says it's often about fulfilling an unconscious need. These behaviors, they aren't random. They're like misguided attempts to get something deeper met.
That's a fascinating angle. Makes you rethink things. She gives some really good examples, too, like someone who keeps sabotaging relationships. Consciously, they might want connection. But maybe unconsciously, there's this stronger pull towards finding themselves, being independent, even if it clashes with not wanting to be lonely.
Or the classic example of someone undermining their own success at work. Maybe deep down, their real passion is, art or something less conventional.
Right, even if society's pushing them towards that corporate ladder.
Exactly. And she mentions others, too, like constantly overanalyzing your feelings. That can actually be a way to avoid really feeling them.
Like keeping them at an intellectual distance?
Yeah, or negative self-talk. That often comes from a fear of vulnerability, doesn't it? If I put myself down first, then failure or rejection maybe won't hurt as much.
So these are basically coping mechanisms we've learned.
Kind of, yeah, but maladaptive ones. They give maybe temporary relief, a sense of safety.
But they don't solve the actual problem. They just soothe the symptom.
Precisely. You're not getting to the root cause. So where do these patterns start? Wiest looks into that, the roots of self-sabotage.
Okay, what does she say?
Well, one big one is irrational fear. These fears we've held on to for ages, often without even questioning them. About ourselves, about how the world works.
And they just run in the background driving things.
Driving self-sabotage without us even connecting the dots.
Okay, what else?
Then there are unconscious negative associations. That inner story we tell ourselves. Who we are, what we're capable of.
Yeah, the internal monologue.
That gets built up from everything, family beliefs, peer opinions, past stuff. And if that story is, outdated or just wrong,
it holds you back. It leads to sabotage that just proves the negative story right. Vicious cycle.
Exactly. And here's another interesting one. Self-sabotage can come from just plain unfamiliarity.
How so?
Well, we humans, we're like what's known, right? Even if something new is actually good for us, the fact that it's unfamiliar can feel uncomfortable.
Oh.
And we might misinterpret that discomfort. Think it means something is wrong or bad, and then subconsciously torpedo it.
That reminds me of Gay Hendricks' idea, the upper limit.
Yes,
yeah.
Exactly. That invisible ceiling on how much happiness or success we allow ourselves.
Like an internal thermostat set to...
Sort of. Or like a psychological baseline,
I think so.
That comfortable, familiar level we always return to. Anything that pushes us too far above that.
Feels weird, unsettling, even if it's good.
Right. And that unease can trigger self-sabotage to bring us back down to what feels normal, even if normal isn't great.
So, okay, how do we start breaking these patterns then? What's the first step, according to Wiest?
Getting out of denial. That's critical.
Facing reality.
Absolutely. Honest self-assessment. Really looking at the parts of your life where you're truly not satisfied. She's pretty blunt about it.
Yeah.
Saying things like, just chanting affirmations while ignoring your actual situation. That doesn't work.
Yeah.
It can even lead to Dissociation. Feeling disconnected from yourself.
It's like putting a smiley face sticker on a warning light.
Perfect analogy.
Yeah.
And when we're in denial, we tend to blame everything else,
Sure.
right? Or we spend tons of energy justifying why things are the way they are.
Which feels better, maybe, temporarily, but stops any real change.
Exactly. It prevents you from taking action. She actually suggests, like, writing it all down. Everything you're unhappy with. Just get it out there, honestly.
Create an inventory. Okay.
Right.
And she also says growth often involves discomfort.
Oh, definitely. That's a huge theme.
Yeah.
Real significant change. It pretty much always requires stepping outside of your comfort zone.
Letting go of the familiar.
Letting go of familiar habits, routines, maybe even relationships that aren't supporting where you want to go.
That sounds hard. Letting go of what feels safe, even if it's limiting.
It is hard. But she frames it as letting go of things built for a version of you that you're outgrowing. And the root of the sabotage itself, she says, often lies in conflicting desires.
Okay, explain that.
It's like your conscious mind wants one thing, success, love, whatever. But deep down, there's an unconscious desire or attachment pulling you in another direction.
Like the relationship example earlier. Wanting connection, but also needing independence.
Exactly. And Wiest makes this great point. People basically do what they want to do on some level, for some reason, even if it looks self-destructive. There's an underlying payoff.
Even an attachment to the problems themselves. Is that possible?
Surprisingly, yes. She explores how that works. Like, maybe someone unconsciously fears success because they think they'll be less liked or more isolated.
Or opening up to love feels too vulnerable, too risky.
Right. Or even just playing small, avoiding the spotlight, feels safer than risking scrutiny.
So the problem is actually serving a purpose. Like procrastination might give temporary comfort, avoid fear of failure.
These behaviors, they seem illogical, but they're often meeting some hidden need we haven't acknowledged.
Wow. Okay, she then lists a bunch of common self-sabotaging behaviors. It's quite a list.
It is. And it's like holding up a mirror, isn't it? Things we can probably all recognize, like hitting your upper limit.
Yeah, that feeling when things are going too well and you kind of flinch.
Or uprooting, constantly needing a fresh start. New job, new city, new relationship.
But the same patterns just follow you, never sticking with anything long enough to see it through.
Right. Only comfortable in the beginning stages. Then there's perfectionism.
Ugh, the killer of action. Being so afraid of not being perfect that you do nothing.
And justification. Prioritizing the excuses over the ambition. Almost treating the excuses like achievements.
Oh, I know that one. And cluttering, how does that fit?
She connects physical clutter to internal chaos. A messy space reflecting, or even reinforcing, a messy mind.
Makes sense. And forcing things. Trying to want something you don't really want.
Yeah, trying to fit into a mold that isn't yours leads to feeling empty, right?
Totally. What about judging others? How is that self-sabotage?
Because the harsh rules or limits you apply to others often become unspoken rules you apply to yourself, especially around success or worthiness.
Interesting. And pride. Letting ego run the show.
Yeah, ignoring your intuition because your ego wants something else, even if it's not truly beneficial.
Okay, what else is on that list? Downplaying successes.
Fear of seeming arrogant, maybe? Or a deeper fear of, like, peaking. What if I can't keep this up?
The big ones. Procrastination, obviously. And just being busy all the time.
Busy is a form of avoidance, yeah. Filling time instead of doing what matters.
Spending time with the wrong people, too. People who drain you or don't get your goals.
Definitely. And worrying constantly about irrational fears, those wild, worst-case scenarios that probably won't happen.
Prioritizing being liked over being authentic or happy, that's a big one for many people.
Huge. And just being fundamentally more afraid of feeling your own emotions than anything else.
Wow. Waiting for permission, basically? For external validation or the perfect opportunity instead of creating it.
And finally, just not seeing how far you've actually come. Staying stuck in an old self-image.
Okay, that's a lot to recognize. So once you start seeing these patterns in yourself, what's next? Just knowing isn't enough, right?
Not at all. Recognition is step one. The real transformation, blissed stresses, comes from taking action, doing things differently, even when it feels uncomfortable.
And that's when the hard part might kick in.
It can, yeah. She points out that when you stop the sabotaging behavior, the emotions you were avoiding might actually bubble up. You might even feel worse for a bit.
Oh, great.
But it's often necessary, you know, part of the processing.
Yeah.
You have to feel it to heal it kind of thing.
So how do you handle that?
She offers some good self-reflection questions, like, what am I really feeling right now? What's this emotion telling me? What do I need in this moment?
Getting curious instead of shutting down.
Exactly. And then reconnecting with your why, your vision for change. That bigger purpose can pull you through the fear.
And just allowing the feelings, making space for them.
Yeah, observing them without judgment. She suggests things like writing letters to your younger self or imagining advice from your future self. Just ways to process it fully so it stops running the show unconsciously.
Okay. And one of the biggest takeaways seems to be about action and feeling.
Yes, this is huge. Disconnecting action from feeling. We usually wait to feel motivated.
Right. I'll do it when I feel like it.
But she says, nope. Take action before you feel motivated. Often the action itself builds momentum and creates the motivation.
Because our feelings are wired for comfort, for the familiar.
Exactly. So initial discomfort doesn't automatically mean you're doing the wrong thing. It might just mean you're growing.
That relates to how we interpret negative emotions too, doesn't it? She sees them as messengers.
Right. Not just bad things to get rid of, but carriers of important info. Catalysts for growth.
Like sadness helps process loss. Anger shows boundaries. Guilt prompts reflection.
Embarrassment signals misalignment with values. Regret shows what you need to create moving forward. Even chronosphere, she says, is often a projection. The way out is through it.
And she talks about gut feelings too, differentiating instinct from fear.
Yeah, the subtle, quiet gut knowing versus the loud, anxious projections of the mind. Her key point is making the right decisions creates the right feelings, not the other way around.
Which all ties back to emotional intelligence.
Exactly. She frames self-sabotage partly as low emotional intelligence, needing to get better at understanding and interpreting our feelings accurately.
So for making big changes, she doesn't advocate for, like, massive overnight shifts.
Not typically. She emphasizes the power of microshifts.
Tiny changes.
Small, consistent actions. They add up over time. It's about building habits based on principles, she says, not just chasing fleeting passion or inspiration.
Those little daily choices are what actually build the new reality.
And even when you do make positive changes, be prepared for something called adjustment shock.
What's that? Feeling weird even when things are better.
Basically, yeah. Discomfort or anxiety just because the new situation is unfamiliar. Your comfort zone is disrupted.
So you might feel like hypervigilant, or old limiting beliefs might pop back up.
Exactly. Which can lead to, weird logical gaps or anxiety, jumping to worst-case scenarios again because the new good feels unstable.
So a big part of moving forward is dealing with the past then.
Absolutely crucial. Releasing the past. She says it's a process, not a flip of the switch, but essential to stop sabotaging the present.
Because holding on to old hurts just carries them forward.
Right, you keep recreating the past. She suggests a technique. Actively reframing past stuff by offering compassion to your younger self, understanding why they felt or acted that way.
And acknowledging that maybe society doesn't give us great tools for grieving or processing trauma, so it lingers.
True. And real healing, she says, is about showing up now as you are, not waiting until you're some perfect future version.
So release the old, build the new. How do we build the new?
She talks about connecting with your highest potential future self. Using that vision as a guide.
Like inner child work, but for the future?
Kind of. Future self-work. For clarity, for reassurance. And she also emphasizes the body. Trauma isn't just mental, it's stored physically.
So addressing it physically. Self-soothing, creating safety.
Yes, finding ways to help your body feel safe again. Often by gently addressing the source of the trauma. And really visualizing and stepping into your most powerful self. What do? How do they think?
And what are the traits of that powerful self?
Awareness of weaknesses, for one. Willingness to be disliked sometimes, to stay authentic. And a real commitment to inner work. Plus, emotional validation, giving it to yourself and others. It fosters openness.
And relying on principles, not just inspiration.
Over time. Adopt personal principles for living in relationships, money, work. They provide stability when motivation fades. Then she gets into finding your true purpose.
So the million-dollar question.
Right. She suggests looking at the overlap between your skills, your genuine interests, and what the world actually needs or values. And remembering purpose isn't fixed, it evolves. Self-improvement itself is part of a meaningful life.
Okay, so all this leads from self-sabotage towards self-mastery. What does that look like?
It's about controlling emotions, meaning being aware of them and choosing your behavior versus suppressing them, which leads to denial and blow-ups.
And mental health isn't constant happiness.
No. It's about navigating life's ups and downs with more fluidity, more resilience.
She talks about inner peace, too.
Yeah, as a state of deep knowing and calm inside. You get there by managing the reactive mind. She suggests trading the chase for fickle happiness, for the stability of inner peace.
But getting there means dealing with the inner child's fears.
Often, yes. Reparenting that part of yourself. Choosing to stay with discomfort and make different choices, consciously.
Reminding yourself that worry is often just a distraction, and feelings aren't always facts.
Discerning instinct from fear, and seeing mental strength as a practice planning, getting help, focusing on solutions, not problems or the past.
And don't force happiness when you're struggling.
Right. Aim for neutral first. Allow the feelings. True happiness tends to live in the present moment anyway.
So notice the little joys. Nurture good relationships. Be mindful of your thoughts.
All of that. Where your energy goes, your reality follows. She even suggests scheduling time for doing nothing and for play, reconnecting with joy.
It sounds like self-mastery is really about perspective, seeing the value in the climb itself.
Exactly. Recognizing that the discomfort, the struggle, was actually the catalyst for transformation. And finally, claiming your power to create the life you want. Realizing the mountain was always you, and you have the ability to navigate it.
Wow. Okay, that's a really thorough look at the core ideas in Brianna Wiest's The Mountain Is You.
It really is a valuable framework for understanding why we get in our own way and, crucially, how to start climbing out of it towards self-mastery.
Absolutely. So if you found this deep dive helpful and you're interested in more summaries like this, breaking down impactful books.
Definitely follow Bookish Dives. We'll be back with more.
And maybe a final thought to leave you with, inspired by the book.
Remember Wiest's point one day. That mountain you're facing now will be in the distance, but the person you become, the strength and wisdom you gain climbing it, that stays with you. That's the real summit.